All right, thanks for coming out. Good week. Last time I saw you was after the scrimmage Saturday. We've had some good work, good practices, getting ready. Full focus has turned to Ohio. I will address them on Monday in our, what is our game week press conference. But rest assured, we're working on their plays and their stuff now. So after the scrimmage, we evaluated and then moved on to preparation for Ohio University. So, questions?
At this point, how do you plan to handle the running back situation? Did anybody establish himself as the lead guy?
You know what? They're all going to play right now because they all deserve to. No one separated themselves to the degree that you say, you know what, that guy's got to get the lion's share of the carries, and then it'll be, it's never easy to get three backs running, but they have different skill sets a little bit. So, Coach Shaw is as good as I've been around it at getting them in at the right time, and he and Coach Shiraka have a little thing going, where they understand each other's flow, and that'll be the deal too. If a guy gets hot, he keeps going, and otherwise we'll keep rotating them, and hopefully someone separates themselves from the pack as the season goes on. But I've had years where you just have, three good running backs, and that's a tough position, as you know. When you have the ball, you're a target, so it's hard to keep a guy healthy the whole season when he's getting hit like that.
Looking at the defensive line room, you and your staff have tried in the past to build that unit with a lot of guys that can rotate in and a lot of different options. Is there something about this year's defensive line unit that is kind of differentiating from years past?
No, I think it's a good group that's growing. We have young guys, we have some older guys. No, I think they're doing a good job. I think that, we're going to have to get into games and play. There's some guys who haven't played for us at least. And no matter what you do in scrimmages or practices, when the lights come on, there's certain guys that just their level ascends. There's other guys who just kind of stay where they are. And then, unfortunately, there's some that when the lights come on, they descend. And, that's one thing we're going to have to find out. And that's why with the number of new guys on our roster that will be contributing, this is going to be a little bit of the unknown, that's the way it is. That's life in modern college football.
I wanted to ask you about the wide receiver room. You have a pretty talented group this year, a lot of returning production. How would you kind of compare and contrast them to some of the units you had in the 2.0 era, the 1.0 era?
Well, I think this is a really good group of receivers, and obviously, KJ and Ian are the focal points. I think D.T. Sheffield has come in here and really established himself as a legitimate Big Ten receiver. I think Ben Black is really, had a really good camp, a good spring. We have some guys, and then we have some younger guys that are working their way in. The shame of it all is Fama Torre, with the knee injury in the spring game. Otherwise, I'm sure he would be right up there as well. So I think the room, Coach Brock has done an unbelievable job of developing the room and recruiting for the room. I like our receiver room.
Big picture question on scheduling. You start the season with two MAC teams. You're playing a MAC team, at least one of them, through 2030. Is there something about that league that they hit a sweet spot of where you want to play in the non-conference?
Well, I think traditionally with the Big Ten, the MAC, we use the same officials. There's a lot of overlap there. And, when you're scheduling out of conference games, it's not easy to get games. So you work real hard to get them in advance because you never know, what you'll be able to get on short notice. So, but I think there is an overlap. Big Ten MAC has always been a strong tradition of that.
Dante Chin was a guy who, when you evaluated him in high school, didn't have a ton of football experience. What did you see about him, his athleticism, and how is that basketball background translated to his ability now?
Well, you're right on with that now. Like, he's a really fine, big athlete. Dante is. Didn't know a lot of football. Came here very green when it came to football knowledge. But athletically, you could see it on tape. He played offensive line, played defensive line. I mean, he was really a good athlete. And had a couple injuries since he's been here, but's been able to fight through them. And, the talent, I believe, is shining through now. And I think that he's put himself in a good place. He's going to play. How much? That's all going to be determined again by that competition. I said on Saturday, it's a little bit cloudy and who's going to get what. I can't sit here and tell you I know for sure yet what it's going to be. And I may not know, just like the running back position, I may not know for a couple of weeks. But, what you try to do is kind of know what your team is and what you're capable of as you get, maybe 3-4 games into the season. And hopefully you can stay healthy and then lock in on what your team will be the rest of the year.
Bradley Weaver, speaking of the MAC's Big Ten synergy, very productive at the MAC level. What are you expecting from him at the Big Ten level, and what are you hoping he gives you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm if he can be as productive as he was with the team we're playing, if he can do that for us, I'd be very happy. It's unique. He knows this team very well because it was his team not too long ago. But overall, for the whole season, I think Brad brings a unique skill set. And again, he's got other people. He doesn't have to do it all by himself. But when he's in there, I hope that he can be productive. That's why we brought him here.
I know you alluded to this just a few moments ago, but offensive tackle, after looking at the scrimmage, was there any clarity there? I know it's the cloud still, but cloudy with a chance of clarity, or?
Yeah, it's not cloudy in a bad way. Today's cloudy in a bad way. I don't like the rain. I mean, it's cloudy in that I like the people we have. A couple guys got bumps, so they're coming back. It'll work itself out. I do believe that. I think we just have to just keep working. Coach Flat's, years of experience doing this. There's absolutely zero worry or panic or anything. We got to figure out who it is, and sometimes that means you play more than two until you figure it out.
Time for 2 more.
Through spring and through training camp with Zach Sparber and Rob Smith as the co-defensive coordinators, how do you feel like they've grown together in terms of building this defense, especially considering, like you mentioned before, there's a lot of newcomers?
Yeah, I think it's the whole defensive staff, right? So we had guys that were previously on the staff. Rob and Zach come in. Vic comes in, Vic Hall. The mix has been good. I think they have a good chemistry there, and they're working well together. We're working well with the players. We have to play better on defense. That was one thing. Forget the reasons why. We've talked about that. We have to play better on defense to have the kind of team we want to have. So that's going to be a challenge. We got a lot of young, new players playing on defense that have to gel very quickly, and new coaches too. So we'll see.
Just since the start of spring practice, where do you feel like you've seen A.J. Surace take the biggest jump as he kind of steps into this?
Well, you remember he came back from the injury, right? So he missed so much time. And it was an injury that affected his ability to throw. So first he had to get physically able to get back to where he was. I was so excited, watching him that first spring and summer. I was like, ooh. And then that injury happens. And at the beginning when he came back from the injury, he wasn't throwing it the same. And, the docs told me, just be patient. It'll come back. And it has. And what all along he did while physically he was recovering is he worked like crazy with Coach Shiraka on learning to be a big-time quarterback. I am very comfortable, with A.J. He hasn't played. But other than that, he works his tail off. He understands the offense. And he's got a great mentor in Ethan. Like they're close. That whole quarterback room is close. And I think that we're growing a tradition here in quarterbacks. I think we're going to have good quarterback play for a number of years going forward. I told you I would try to clean some things up Saturday. So Ryder Langsdale is out for the season. He had an injury and he had surgery. Stephen Murray is out for the season. He also had an injury and is out for the season. So, and then any other things, we'll wait. If there's any other injuries, that'll come out on the day of the game with the availability report. Thanks for following us, guys.